Taking your business to the next level is a dream lots of us share, but too often it remains just a dream. We hold ourselves back thinking, what if I don't have the skills? What if I can't do it alone? Turn those what ifs into why nots and help your business soar with Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., from household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started. With everything you need in one place, Shopify takes the stress out of running your business. Plus, their built-in marketing tools make it easier than ever to find new customers and keep them coming back. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/lifestyle. Go to shopify.com/lifestyle.
Hi friends, welcome to Raising Lifelong Learners. I'm your host, Colleen Kessler, and this is the podcast where I encourage you to trust yourself and your differently wired kiddos as you help cultivate their curiosity, encourage them to discover the world around them, embrace who they are wired to be, all while helping them discover their passions, interests, and raise them to become the amazing adults they're meant to be. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 295, and we are finishing up our series on executive function skills with this episode, and it's perfect because the topic is all about finishing what we start. How many of you can relate to your kids just starting things again and again and again and getting really hyper-focused on them for a while and then not finishing? Or starting a task that we need them to finish and then not following through? We're going to talk today about closing loops for 2E kids and otherwise neurodivergent kids, particularly those who have lots of tabs open in their brain. They've got lots of things going, lots of irons in the fire, and struggle to finish any of the things that they get started. This is going to be a really great episode. Before we begin, though, I want to give a special shout out and thanks to CTC Math, our sponsor for the last several years. We really appreciate them and their support because they are really what makes this podcast able to happen, and we're so grateful for them. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about CTC later on in this episode, but know that it is our favorite math program, and I highly recommend it to anybody who is looking for a great math program to try. All right, here, pop your earbuds in, and let's get on with today's episode. Hey there. Okay, I'm so excited. This is the last episode in our executive function series, and this has been a really fun series for me. I love how it's all just flowed together from mornings till the end of the day, and that's exactly what we're doing today. We're talking about finishing strong. This is all about closing loops for our neurodivergent kids and helping them close out all of those open things that are in their minds, the open tabs. If your kids are anything like mine and have like 10, 20, 472 tabs open on their laptop and in their life, you're just so not alone. Today, we're going to shrink the finish line a little bit, limit what's in progress, and build tiny rituals and routines that help our kids close loops without killing their curiosity. This is so perfect for all of our neurodivergent kids, our gifted, our twice exceptional, ADHD, autistic kiddos, kids with sensory challenges or learning challenges, and the moms who are holding the ship together. I promise that when this episode is over, you will leave with a done statement template to help you and your kids close those loops. A work in progress kind of limit system. We talked a little bit about that in the last episode when we were talking about organization. A done in a day routine, and then some rituals to help save progress when our kids just can't shut it down or finish it off. These work in real homes, real people, and I promise you that if you give them a try, they will work for you too. All right, don't forget that this series has been all about executive functions, breaking them down, making them manageable for you and your kids, and we have an executive function quick start guide over on the show notes for this and any of the other episodes in this 5-episode series, so you can grab those anytime you want over at raisinglifelonglearners.com. Before we begin, a special shout out as always to our sponsors. I appreciate CTC Math and all that they do to support this podcast. I'll be talking about them a little bit later in the episode. All right, let's talk first about why finishing is so hard for neurodivergent kiddos. When kids are done with something and their brains really work off of that novelty and those dopamine hits that we were talking about in the last couple of episodes, as they start to finish up or as a project winds down, the novelty that fueled them at the start just fizzles out. The middle feels a little bit boring. The end triggers the what next anxiety that they sometimes face. So oftentimes they just give up instead of getting to that next point because the unknown is so anxiety producing and there's no new sense of excitement yet because they don't have a plan in place. Also, perfectionism can really rear its ugly head. They can start to think about if it's not amazing, why bother? Or it's already not looking exactly like it did in my head, so there's no point in finishing this. And perfectionism can really paralyze our kids, especially when they're neurodivergent. There's also that time blindness thing that we talked about a few episodes ago. They can't quite feel how close they are to being done. So either it feels like they should just stop because they've been working on it too long, or they are never ever going to get done. This project was worthless in the first place and there's no end in sight, so they just abandon it. Sometimes, too, it's a little bit ambiguous. Write about mammals becomes a dissertation on every single mammal they can possibly think of. Or they are faced with a task that they've never been faced with before and they don't know how to begin. And so they just don't move forward at all. We're working through this with one of my kiddos who's working on a writing curriculum, and a couple of the things that they've faced in it feel so big and ambiguous that they're just struggling to get through, and they keep abandoning the activity and the workbook midway through. Some of our kids also have a working memory challenge. We talked about this a few episodes ago too. The next steps vanish as soon as they stop. They just don't remember what they're going to do, so they just don't do anything. What I want you to do when we're thinking about our kids struggling to finish a project, an activity, something that they wanted to do or something we need them to do, I want you to reframe it in your head and think about the idea that your kiddo isn't avoiding finishing or avoiding the work. They're avoiding unclear endings. We want to help them make the endings small, visible, and repeatable. So we can say to them, let's pick a tiny finish line that we can reach in one sitting because we can always add more later. Give them baby steps so they have those small, tiny wins and they finish parts of it as they go along. Okay, one of the first things that we can do to achieve these baby steps and achieve these tiny finish lines is define done before we even begin. Sometimes that ambiguous, I don't know what done looks like, keeps them from even going forward. And so we can be quite simple and very clear and say, this is done when, and identify what done looks like for them. This is done when you've written 5 sentences with an introduction sentence, a conclusion sentence, and 3 details in between, like a sandwich. Give them very clear instructions and understandings. This math assignment is done when you've done 10 problems completely correct. So when you get to 10 correct problems, you can move on. Some other examples include writing your draft has a title, 3 big ideas, and a feeling word in each paragraph. Math, solve 6 problems. You can start with the odd numbers, circle 2 that you might need help with. A project could look like you're creating a poster that has 3 labeled images and you're ready to give a 30-second tour of your poster. Chores Laundry is done when it's in the drawer and the basket is empty. Be very clear. You can make it visible by putting these instructions on an index card, a sticky note, or a whiteboard. We actually have index cards for just about every job in our house, what the kitchen looks like when it's done, what the laundry looks like when it's done, what bedrooms look like when they're done. We also have photographs of finished rooms so kids can see. And so use a strategy that works for your family but makes it very visible for your kids. Say it aloud so the brain hears the target. This is finished when the laundry is in the drawer and the basket is empty. Be very clear, have it written down, visual, but also say it aloud. And then post that visual where the work lives, in the laundry room, next to the dresser, in the kitchen where the counters need cleaned. You can also talk to your kids and script this out for them. Before we start, let's work together to come up with our done statement. We want to make sure that it's short and winnable. If your kiddo argues with the criteria, you've found some buy-in. So collaborate with them and reduce to whatever's essential. So if they're giving you pushback, they're still on board with you. So see if you can work together to collaborate to come to an agreement, because you'll get even more buy-in that way. All right, so we've got some done statements, which are really quick and easy tools that you can use to help your kids completely understand what needs to be done. Let's talk about work in progress limits and like the visual flow that goes along with it. Okay, so a work in progress is also called a WIP. You can abbreviate that and tell your kiddos that that's what that stands for. The rule is that your kids are working on one now. Remember, we talked about this last episode. And if you don't remember or you didn't get a chance to listen to that, go back and listen to it. We want our kids to have something they're working on now, something in the next pile, and then everything else is in parking. So a maximum of 2 works in progress going on at a time. There's one that's waiting for them to get started on it. There's one they're currently working on, and then everything else is parked and waiting for one of the other projects to be done. You can use your now next parking board or carts or baskets to identify what they're working on and what they can come back to later. You can put your done statement that you created in the last step right on the now item, right in your folder if you're using the folder system. And you can say to your kiddos, we're finishing the now before we pull from the next section or the parking lot. We want to make sure we only have 2 works in progress going on at a time. If a new idea pops up, we can park it. The parking saves it. It doesn't erase it. So we can always come back to it. This is especially helpful for your kiddos who are multi-potentials, who always have lots and lots and lots of ideas. And those kiddos who are multi-potentials, they're visionaries. They are the people that we need to create new businesses and come up with ideas and be innovators. So we don't want to squelch that idea generation, which is a reason why we use the parking, to keep it for later so they can come back to it. When your kiddos have finished one of their projects, one of their works in progress, we want to either put it in the done basket or pile or take a photo for our photo portfolio like we talked about last episode. So there's always a memory of it. Now, some of our projects we want to keep, some of our projects we don't, but we can always use this technique of taking a picture or putting it in a done box so they can see what's done. We can come up with a gallery of photos or of art projects that we share with people who come over. We don't want to keep everything because that starts to build that visual clutter and then starts to derail our organization. So we really need to make sure that all of our executive functions are working well together. And so it's especially great if you can create a visual gallery, like a photo portfolio like we talked about last week. It works because when we close that cognitive loop, we give them a conclusion that's very visual. It gives them that dopamine for closure. They finished something, they feel good about themselves and what they've accomplished, and it reduces overwhelm. They're not overwhelmed with all of the things they could potentially be doing because they're only working on their now and their next, and everything else is parked and waiting for later. Okay, so we've talked about done statements, simple This is done when we've talked about works in progress, what they are, how we can structure them, how we can limit them, and how we can handle all that idea generation that comes from our visionaries. Now let's talk about a plan to make sure that we can get done in a day. Okay, I'm going to suggest that when you're trying to work on having your kids come up with a project that they could be done with in a day, we start to give them different product ideas. Now, our neurodivergent kids often think outside the box, which is why we oftentimes can't just pull a boxed curriculum from the shelf, why we need to think outside the box. So, for example, I've talked about this on this podcast before. When my oldest son was in high school and he was doing history, we found a history curriculum that looked really promising. But once we started reading through the textbook, we realized that it was definitely written from a very specific worldview, and it left out some very important parts, at the very least, some other sided parts of certain historical events. And we really wanted to approach history from both perspectives, or all perspectives, so we could really talk about critical thinking. So my son and I decided that we would still use the textbook, but we would supplement with videos and documentaries and like essays and things like, and podcasts and things like that. So the first 2 days of the week, he read a unit. And then the second 2 days of the week, so Wednesdays, Thursdays, he was watching documentaries, listening to podcasts and other videos and things like that about the same topic that he had read about in the unit study. And then on Fridays, we'd meet for coffee or hot chocolate or whatever, and we'd talk about the period of history that he had read and watched and learned about, and how it applied to current day, modern day. And so we really worked on discernment, critical thinking skills, logical thinking skills, historical accuracy, slant, and perspectives. And we didn't have a typical essay questions to be answered and tests and products like that. So sometimes it's important. Okay, so the truth is, when we're homeschooling neurodivergent kids, it's really often going to be important to think outside the box when it comes to products, because we really want our kids to know that the learning process is what's important when it comes down to it. So if something is dragging or you need a quick win, pick a tiny product for your kids to do. Okay, here are a couple ideas. So like a 60-second voice memo summary of something that you've either talked about or read together. A postcard explanation. Take a 4x6 index card, have them draw a picture on one side like a postcard, and jot a little note, a short paragraph on the other side summarizing what they learned about. A 3-slide deck if they are kiddos who like to use PowerPoint or other technology. A title slide, a second slide with 3 points on it, and then a picture. So simple slide deck. Maybe a show and tell video, 30 seconds to a minute, that shows whatever they had done or were learning about and tells about it. Or a 1-pager with 3 labeled images. So this is like a press sheet that you would see for an author or a new company. 3 images with some descriptions about those images on 1 sheet of paper. So pick one tiny product and then create 3 10-minute blocks in your day. So you're making it manageable, you're making it bite-sized, and you're optimizing for quick wins. So have a 10-minute planning session. So 10 minutes to plan, where you work together with your kiddos, you collaborate to write the done statement, to outline 3 points that they're going to learn about. The first 10-minute block is plan. Write a done statement and then outline the 3 points that you are studying. And then the second 10-minute block is the make block. Build your tiny product. Keep it messy. Don't worry about perfection in this particular step, okay? And then finally, the third 10-minute block is the share block. Show a sibling, show grandma, show a friend on your phone via FaceTime, mom, dad, whomever, or snap a photo for the picture portfolio, but share it with somebody or somehow so the product is explored by others and shared with others. You can say to your kids things like, we're not writing a whole book today, you're just writing a postcard. Or the timer's set for 10 minutes. Imperfect is encouraged. You can adapt it for them. You can scribe the first line for your kiddo. Maybe your kiddo has dysgraphia or just struggles to write or spell words. You can help them use or allow them to use speech to text for the voice memo. Or you can come up with a tiny product, a tiny win that you're going to do once a week for your kiddos who are more rigid in their thinking and need that structure and what to experience or expect. And so that you have the same small product to do every Thursday or Friday. It's predictable closure to a subject or their week.
Okay, so let's talk about math. Specifically, let's talk about finding a program that actually works for your unique homeschoolers. In our house, we've been using CTC Math for years, and even though I am so appreciative that they sponsor this podcast, I am a paying customer. I'm still a paying customer even with their sponsorship because it's just that good, and I love supporting great companies with great programs. With 2 kids still at home, both with very different learning needs, CTC Math has been the flexible and dependable solution that I keep coming back to. One of my kiddos needs more time to process math concepts, and I love that she can move through the lessons at her own pace without feeling rushed or behind. My other kiddo, he flies. He jumps straight to the end of unit tests to see what he already knows, and then we only focus on the lessons that fill the gaps. That kind of customization is gold when you're homeschooling gifted or twice exceptional kids. CTC Math gives you the access to every grade level, from kindergarten through 12th grade with your subscription, so that your child can accelerate, review, or jump around based on their own needs, not based on some rigid curriculum structure. And because it's video-based with clear instruction and auto-graded lessons and quizzes, it frees me up to support my kids without being chained to a textbook, teacher's manual, or whiteboard. So whether your child needs more time or is racing ahead, you can tailor it all with CTC Math. Check it out at ctcmath.com. You will see why so many homeschool families trust it. And if you've got quirky math learners like I do, I think you're going to love it. If you have any questions about CTC, like I said, we've been using it for years in our homeschool, and I encourage you to reach out and ask me any questions that you have. If you do pop over there, let them know that I sent you, and let them know that you appreciate their ongoing support of homeschoolers everywhere, especially those of you here at Raising Lifelong Learners. All right, let's get back to today's episode.
Okay, so we've talked about creating done statements, working with our works in progress, and creating a simple done in a day plan where we pick a tiny product and we use a 30-minute, 3 10-minute segments to get a job done. Now, let's talk about our save and progress rituals. What are we going to do when our kids aren't finishing something or aren't able to finish something in a day, but we tend to lose track of things and don't come back to it because of that reason, because of the loss? Let's start with an end of session steps. When we are done with our work for the day, or we have to move on to go to somewhere, we have to go to dance class or an acting lesson or a sport or whatever it is you have to go to, you can take a photo of where you left off, where your kiddos left off. You can do a screenshot if it's on the computer, or a photo that you snap, and then write a sticky note that says the next step and put those in the material. Put all of the materials with the sticky note and the photo or screenshot in the labeled bag or bin or box where all of those materials live, like we talked about in our organization episode last week. And then move the card to parking and write the date, so we remember that it's parked and we need to come back to it. So our kids aren't going to lose their work because we're keeping track of it for them and helping them. We've screenshotted or photographed what already exists, put it in the bin for that subject, along with a sticky note on top of the bin that says next step and labels what the next step should be. And then everything is there and moved to the parking lot. So you're going to say something to your kid like, future you is going to thank present you, because you're making it really easy for future you to remember what you're doing on this project when you have time to come back to it. What is your next step? Great. Write it. Now it's saved and you don't have to worry about remembering it. When you're re-entering, when you're going back to that task, you can help your kiddo by reading the sticky note aloud, repeating the done statement for that project, and then start with the tiniest little step, the tiniest brick in the building of the project, so that you have a quick win and you're moving forward right away. So we've talked about all the different things that we can do to help our kids close those loops. We've talked about done statements, we've talked about works in progress and the limits, done in a day plan, saving our progress so that we don't lose track of things and get frustrated in that way. Let's talk about the motivation. Sometimes finishing the loop isn't happening because we're just not motivated to do it. Our kids are just not motivated. So let's talk about how to help them stay motivated, or at least how to tap into what their brain needs so that they can feel accomplished at the end of the day and they can become more motivated to get to that accomplishment. So we could help them reach that dopamine rush of finishing something by simply creating a one sentence log at the end of every day where we each go around the table or talk about what we finished. Kind of like a dopamine log, if you will, of what's been accomplished in the day. So today I finished X. And go around the table and everybody share one thing that they finished that day. You could do a finished Friday, 10 to 15 minute family gathering where everybody goes around and talks about one tiny thing they finished that week. You could have a visible wall full of wins where you put a string and clips or a bulletin board or stickies that throughout the week you post those pictures before you put them in the portfolio, or just a one-word sticky note that talks about all the different things that you and the kids have finished during the week. So there's a very visible, tangible way to see it. I've seen this done in courses that I've been a part of over the years, learning how to do different things as I've increased my own knowledge over the years, where a course creator or an instructor will post a sticky note with one of the students' names and each day, or a win from a student. And so you'll watch the videos to see if your name gets posted that day. Anything like that adds buy-in, builds in a little celebration that's not like bribery, but is motivation. So we can talk to our kids using language like, we celebrate the finish, not the polish. We celebrate progress, not perfection. Done is a skill. We can iterate later. Okay, so this is super powerful for our perfectionists. Teaching them that getting something done is a skill worth learning for its own sake. And the iteration, the polishing, the perfecting of something can come much later. This is going to happen. At some point, our perfectionists are going to come up against something that's difficult, whether it's in their homeschooling while they're home or off in college, and they're going to be faced with their first class that they're struggling with or their first activity that they're struggling with. And they need to know that sometimes passing is good enough. Sometimes it's okay to take the C in a specific area, or sometimes it's okay to withdraw from a class that's not going to be serving you in that moment. Done is a skill. Finishing up with something or moving on to something else, or knowing when to celebrate or move on or just finish is such a beautiful thing to have. So when our kids are struggling with this motivation, we can help them be motivated by using those single statements. Today I finished, having a family gallery where we put things up, and celebrating the progress, not the whole finished product. Okay, so how do we pivot when those different profiles that our neurodivergent kiddos might have hits us in the face, right? So let's talk about those ADHD kids again, the ones that seek novelty. This is a situation where you can really rotate your product type by having them do different things to show what they've learned or talk about what they've learned. You give them the novelty that their brains are craving, and you help them learn to show their learning through multiple modalities, different methods. You can race the sand timer, announce the finish with a tiny ritual like ringing a bell or giving a high five, something that gives them that quick win and that dopamine hit that they love so much. For our autistic kiddos, our rigid thinkers, kids who really love sameness, we could have the same board layout every day. We could have the same structure and checklist every day. The product type could be the same. We use real photo labels. We keep the criteria identical. Title plus 3 ideas every time. Whatever it is, we keep it very structured and very predictable for them. Our kiddos with anxiety or PDA, we're talking about low demand invites. Try one tiny step and then check in. Okay, great, fabulous. You're amazing. I love that. What great progress you're making. Now try one more tiny step and come check back in with me. You can offer stop points. We can stop at our B- work level today. When you feel like you've hit a B-, let's just stop. Or when you feel like you've done about half what you're good at today, let's stop there and call it a win. Our kiddos who have learning challenges like dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, you could scribe the first sentence for them. They could use audio first. They could use text later, add it in later. Or they can use audio and then use a resource online to transcribe it for them. You can allow them to orally share the product instead of doing some kind of printed work. And then for our perfectionists, let's help them make an ugly first pass and create a rule that says it's got to be messy. The first pass needs to be your messy copy. Give them a timer, say just get it done by this time, and then we will go back and we will totally rework it together, but let's just get it out on paper. Praise them skipping over the sparkle and producing messy work so they learn that it's okay. Keep examples of messy drafts, maybe from creators that they love or authors that they admire, so that they see that everybody goes through that process at some point. And then let's talk about some quick troubleshooting. Maybe the overall scope of the work is overwhelming for your kids. Cut the criteria in half. Move half of it to parking and just work on half of it in the now. Maybe they get stalled mid-project. Run a done in a day on a micro piece of the same topic. So do your tiny product, plan, execute, share, done in a day routine, and just do it on one small piece of their project. Maybe they can't pick what they're going to finish. Have a parent choose. You choose the smallest activity in the now column and then set a 10-minute timer and work together on it to get it done. Maybe there's a meltdown brewing. Stop, regulate, create a new done statement after the reset. I have a brand new opt-in resource for anybody. Anybody can join this. It's in the sidebar of my website. It's also being shared on social media. And I will put a link to the page that you can sign up for it and get it emailed to you in the show notes. So don't forget the Executive Function Quick Start Guide that goes with this series. But I have a brand new regulation reset toolkit that is for anybody. It's free for anybody, that will help you track triggers that cause some of those meltdowns, and has a page full of different reset options for different age levels, different things that you can use to help co-regulate with your kids, help them learn to regulate themselves, and then a reflection sheet for you to talk about or write about, jot notes about what worked, what didn't work, what you might want to try next time. So you can start to see patterns emerge when your kids have a meltdown brewing. And so you see what regulation tools help them the best. It's a great example of one of the main things that we do inside the Learners Lab. We're working on tools for new social and emotional skills and struggles every single month. And so parents in there are building their toolbox alongside one another and talking with families just like themselves about how to best support their kids. So If you have a meltdown brewing, take a look at that toolkit or just stop. Work on a regulation activity together and then create a new done statement after your reset. And then maybe the siblings derail each other. Stagger the finish times so everybody gets a chance to finish up well, and then separate their gallery spaces so everybody can have their own space to have their finished work be. Okay, here's your challenge for the week. Really, really focus, build on last week's organizational challenge, and post your now, next, and parking so that your kids can see it and use it, and really enforce the 2 works in progress limit. Write a done statement for one of today's nows, and then run your done in a day once this week. End each session of work with a save the progress ritual where you're really talking about how to save it. You're gathering all your materials, you're taking that picture, you're putting your sticky note on the basket or bin or wherever your materials go, and you're talking about what you're going to do the next time. And then keep a dopamine log. I finished this today, or do a Finish Friday share, something to give your kids that quick win and that motivation. Each day, help them move at least one thing to their done column, take a picture for the gallery wall or their portfolio so that they can feel success each time. All right, this has been a really fun and practical series. I've loved sharing it with you. Don't forget to grab the free Quick Start, the Executive Function Quick Start over on the show notes. It has so many resources to get your morning started and get you going in the day. And then, if you're a member of the Learners Lab and you're listening to this, post your Finish Friday wins. We want to hear about it, and we want to celebrate with you. Each Friday, pop in the lab and share your wins so we can cheer you on and you can keep going and we can keep each other accountable. If you're not a member of the lab, consider joining. You can join month to month, cancel at any time. We'd love to have you give it a try. But if you want to share your own Finish Friday wins, you can share it on social media and tag me so I can see it and reshare it for you because I want to celebrate with you. All right, next week we're going to start a brand new series all about sensory needs. We're going to start with working with and on to create tools to improve our kids' sensory diets at home. Because calm bodies make finishing things so much easier. And so we're going to dive deeply over the next few weeks in the area of sensory needs, how we can help our kids, our neurodivergent kids, with their sensory needs so that our homeschool can be a super duper success. All right, we'll be back same time, same place next week. Again, a special thanks to CTC Math. We appreciate your sponsorship. Check them out if you need a math program because they truly are amazing. ctcmath.com. Let them know I sent you. And let them know that you appreciate their support of the podcast. And then, enjoy your kids this week. You have great kids, amazing, creative, intelligent individuals, and celebrate them. Enjoy them, and really lean into the reasons that you chose to homeschool. You're doing a great job. I'm so proud of you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.